what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at different kinds of fractions using your fraction pieces. Keep your math notebooks out, those math journals, because we're going to be writing down a little bit. Why don't you take them all out and just get them all organized and settled on your table so that you can see the different colors. Maybe put them all together so we can easily use them. I needed a creative way to teach equivalent fractions, and I did that using manipulatives. Work together with the people in your group to find all of the pieces, the fractions that will equal 1/2. For example, I can take my fourth pieces, 2 of my fourth pieces, and they will equal 1/2. Okay? These are equal. Try to work with the group members and see how many different combinations you can come up with using your fraction pieces. Okay? How many 6 do you have there, Nora?
3.
3 6. So is that fair to say that 3 6 is equal to 1/2?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Good. I think that using manipulatives in today's lesson really helped the kids to actually see what they were doing. They were dividing and not knowing it, and they were multiplying and not really realizing it, or they were subtracting or adding. However, they used their minds to figure it out. But they didn't realize what they were doing, but because they had the manipulatives there, they were able to get through and find the equivalent fractions. What else is equal to 1/2? What other fractions based on what you've just done with your fraction pieces? Precious?
2/4.
2/4. Very good. Give us another one.
4/8.
4/8. How many of you think, raise your hand, how many of you think that 4/8 will equal 1/2? Okay. Does that indeed work? Yes, it does. 1/2 also equals 4/8. Okay?
3/4 is also called 6/8. But the number 3 was the number 3. It didn't have other names. So that's a big idea. And it also tells me what an equivalent fraction is. An equivalent fraction is simply another name for the same number. How do I go about helping kids develop those ideas? We ought to develop situations, addition stories, multiplication stories for fractions, where using an equivalent fraction would be helpful, and say, solve this addition problem of 3/4 and 7/8 and explain how you did it. Well, if you're going to do that, someplace along the line, you're going to have to figure out about 3/4 being 6/8, and you wrestle with the equivalent fraction concept there.
Take a look at what I've done here. I'm going to make you 3/4. Okay? There we go in the yellow. 3/4. Take those out on your fraction pieces and find an equivalent fraction for 3/4. If teachers were to model fractions using overhead pieces or using any kind of manipulatives, something that's visual or something that's hands-on will help the students better. 3/4 equals
6/8.
Good. 3/4 equals 6/8. Is there any other fraction?
We need to understand what equivalent numbers are because it helps us solve equations at a higher level. It helps make math numbers easier to manipulate. It helps students be able to solve equations or solve problems at a greater level through the use of equivalent numbers. Helping students understand the equivalent fractions will help them do number operations later on. It will help them add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions, and it will help them gain an understanding of those operations.